Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the real story behind the Salem witch trials, a dark chapter of fear, superstition, and injustice that shook colonial America. Beyond the hysteria and accusations, there's a complex web of politics, religion, and human psychology that fueled this tragic event. If you want to understand how mass panic can spiral out of control and affect lives forever, this video is a must. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Let's uncover the truth behind one of history's most infamous witch hunts. You find yourself waking gently in Salem village. The year is the late 1600s, and the morning greets you with a soft, silvery mist that drapes over the landscape like a delicate shawl. The air carries the fresh, clean scent of pine trees, their branches heavy with droplets of dew, rustling faintly. In the whisper of an early breeze, the forest around the village is quiet, but alive with the subtle sounds of nature, waking the chirp of crickets, the distant call of a solitary bird, and the gentle clatter of leaves stirred by small creatures beginning their day. Before you, the village unfolds with a rustic charm. Weathered wooden homes stand in neat clusters, their steep thatched roofs patched with moss and straw. Smoke curls lazily from crooked chimneys, rising in thin ribbons to mingle with the morning mist. From within these homes comes the faint crackle of hearth fire's warmth, spreading steadily to chase away the early chill. The smell of burning wood is comforting and earthy, mingling with the faint aroma of baking bread, promising a simple breakfast soon to be shared among families. As you wander along the winding dirt roads, the soft earth underfoot is still damp and yielding, muffling your steps and deepening the sense of calm. You notice the occasional footprint left by a barefoot child or a worn boot belonging to a farmer already out tending the fields. The village is just beginning to stir. Here and there, you hear the creak of a wooden cart making its way toward the communal well, or the soft murmur of neighbors exchanging morning greetings dot in the distance. The steady tolling of church bells floats across the landscape, slow, measured, and deeply resonant. These bells mark not only the hour but also the rhythm of life itself for Salem's inhabitants. The Puritan faith is woven tightly into the fabric of daily existence here, guiding every action and decision. The church stands at the village's heart, a modest wooden structure with simple, unadorned lines, reflecting the community's devotion to humility and piety. Inside the homes, you can almost see the careful preparations underway for the day ahead. Women tending to hearth fires, stirring thick pots of porridge or boiling herbs for family ailments. Men sharpening tools or readying their horses for work in the surrounding fields and forests. Children, wrapped in hand-woven wool, begin to stretch and yawn, their small feet padding softly across wooden floors. Life here moves with a gentle steadiness, defined by the cycles of nature and faith. The seasons shape the villagers' labors, planting and harvesting, hunting and gathering, and their celebrations. It is a world where every dawn brings both the promise of hard work and the comfort of shared purpose. Yet beneath this serene surface lies a community keenly aware of the fragility of life. The wilderness beyond the village is both a source of bounty and mystery, dark woods that whisper secrets and shadows that inspire caution. The villagers' Puritan beliefs emphasize the constant struggle between good and evil, light and darkness, creating a world where spiritual vigilance is as vital as physical labor. As you breathe in the crisp morning air, you feel the pulse of a community bound together by faith, tradition, and a deep connection to the land. Each face you glimpse, each handshake or nod, carries the weight of shared history and unspoken hopes. In this peaceful dawn, Salem village waits quietly of the storms that will soon sweep through its streets, reshaping its very soul. For now, the mist holds its secrets close, and the village breathes softly in the hush of morning, inviting you to listen to its stories whispered on the wind. The church bell tolls again, slower this time, marking the beginning of a day much like any other, but soon, life here will change forever. Take a moment now to feel the gentle rustling of leaves, the soft murmur of distant voices preparing for worship, and the warmth of hearth fires coaxing the village awake. Let the quiet strength of this place settle in, carrying you gently forward into the unfolding story of Salem village, a community poised on the edge of history. As the morning deepens, you begin to notice the rhythm of life settling into its familiar cadence. A woman steps out onto her porch, the worn wooden boards creaking softly beneath her feet. She pauses for a moment, inhaling the fresh pine-scented air, her hands steady as she gathers a bundle of kindling. The faint scent of wildflowers from nearby meadows mingles with the smoke from chimneys, creating a delicate tapestry of smells that soothe the senses. Children, still wrapped in woolen cloaks, play quietly in the village square, their laughter light and fleeting like the breeze. Their games are simple, chasing one another between carts and barrels, skipping over tree roots, or watching the horses pawing the dirt. Their energy is a soft counterpoint to the serious, measured movements of the adults preparing for the day's toil. That the men, sturdy and weather-worn, move deliberately toward the fields. Their boots stir small puffs of dust as they walk, the sound blending with the chirping of crickets and the distant lowing of cattle. Some carry tools over their shoulders, scythes and pitchforks, while others lead plough horses into the early morning light. You sense their quiet pride in tending the land, a connection forged through generations. Near the edge of the village, a small group gathers at the well. Women fill wooden buckets with cool water, their conversation low and punctuated by smiles, and the occasional playful tease. The clinking of buckets and the soft splash of water create a gentle melody that mixes with the natural sounds of the forest. These daily communal moments are the glue that binds this small, isolated village. The church bell tolls again, drawing many to the wooden meeting house. Inside, the scent of pine needles and beeswax from candles fills the air. The pews are simple, but sturdy, worn smooth by countless hands and knees pressed in prayer. You can almost hear the soft rustle of thick wool cloaks and the faint clearing of throats as villagers prepare to gather in worship. Faith here is not just a private affair, it is the heartbeat of Salem. Sermons echo with the promises of salvation and warnings against sin, their words weaving a shared moral fabric that holds the community close. The villagers live under the ever-watchful eyes of their neighbors and their God, finding comfort and challenge in the tight-knit structure. Yet, within this tranquility, there is an undercurrent of tension, a sense that the natural world and the spiritual realm are intertwined in ways both wondrous and fearful. The dense forests beyond the fields seem to whisper ancient secrets, and the village elders often speak of unseen forces that must be kept at bay. You might catch a glimpse of a weathered woman at the edge of town, gathering herbs with care and intent. Her knowledge of healing is both respected and tinged with suspicion, a reminder of the delicate balance between healing and fear in this time. As the sun climbs higher, the village hums with activity, but the soft, steady pulse of life here remains a mix of devotion, community, and a reverence for the mysterious world surrounding them. And so, as the village settles into its daily rhythm, with hearth fires crackling and footsteps tracing familiar paths along the winding roads, you're gently invited to hold this moment, the calm before the unfolding of history's complex tapestry. The scent of pine, the distant tolling of bells, and the soft murmur of community remind you of a time both humble and profound, where ordinary lives moved quietly beneath extraordinary shadows. Let this serene morning in Salem linger softly in your mind, a gentle pause before the tale continues. You find yourself walking softly through the narrow paths of Salem village, where the crisp air carries more than just the scent of pine and earth. It carries an undercurrent of quiet unease. Around you, conversations dip into hushed tones, and eyes meet briefly before flicking away. It's as if everyone senses something just beneath the surface, an invisible thread of tension woven through daily life. The village, though close-knit, is no stranger to disagreement. Neighbors whisper about disputed boundaries, the precise line where one's field ends and another's begins, contested over 4 years with no easy resolution. These aren't just arguments over land. They are about identity and legacy, about who belongs where in this small corner of the new world. In the meeting house, where church leadership is decided, the air is thick with solemnity, and occasionally, sharp disagreements. The Puritan community holds fast to its beliefs, devoutness that demands not only faith, but conformity. Any deviation, however small, raises eyebrows and quiet murmurs. You can almost hear the invisible weight of expectations pressing on shoulders, the desire to be seen as righteous and true, coupled with the fear of being found wanting. In the marketplace and along the village green, you notice nervous glances, exchanged between families long at odds. Personal rivalries linger like shadows, sometimes sparked by old grievances, sometimes by envy or misunderstanding. It's a delicate dance of coexistence, where smiles are polite but often fleeting, replaced by guarded expressions that speak volumes. The Puritans' worldview casts a clear light on good and evil, community and outsider, sin and salvation. This black and white thinking simplifies the complex world, but it also sharpens suspicion. The idea that unseen forces, both divine and diabolical, are constantly at work in daily affairs means that small misfortunes or missteps are never taken lightly. They become signs, omens even, fueling the quiet unrest. Amidst this, you might chuckle softly at the quirks of human nature playing out in this tight circle, the gossip that flutters like autumn leaves, the attempts to appear more pious than perhaps the heart fully allows, or the subtle power struggles masked by polite conversation. It's a reminder that, even in such a serious setting, people are people, with all their complexities and contradictions. This simmering tension isn't shouted from the rooftops. Rather, it's felt in the pauses between words, the slight stiffening of posture when certain names are mentioned, and the cautious steps people take as they navigate the social landscape. It's a delicate balance of faith and fear, loyalty and suspicion, where every smile might hide a secret and every silence carry a story. As you walk through Salem's village lanes, the evening light softens the edges of this quiet unrest. The sound of footsteps on dirt mingles with the distant call of an owl, and for a moment, the village seems almost peaceful. But beneath this calm, the subtle tensions weave their way through the community's fabric, waiting, like a tide, to change the course of many lives. Let yourself sink into this gentle, unfolding atmosphere where faith, fear, and human complexity intertwine softly, painting a picture of a village on edge, holding its breath for the days to come. As dusk settles over Salem village, the soft glow of lanterns flickers through the windows of modest homes, casting warm pools of light onto the surrounding darkness. Inside, families gather after long days of toil, their conversations tinged with cautious whispers. Even in the safety of their hearths, the weight of suspicion lingers, like a faint shadow just beyond the firelight. You might imagine the quiet moments when neighbors pass on the street, exchanging brief greetings with a careful smile, each silently aware of the undercurrents beneath the surface. The market stalls, once lively with laughter and bartering, now carry a hushed tone, as if the villagers collectively hold their breath, mindful of the fragile peace. Amid the rhythms of daily life, fields, repairing fences, and preparing meals, the undercurrent of religious fervor feeds both comfort and fear. The Puritan belief in a world teetering between divine grace and satanic influence shapes every thought, every action. You can almost hear the faint echo of sermons reminding the congregation of the ever-present battle between good and evil, and the peril of straying from the righteous path. Yet, even in this strict and watchful community, there are moments of quiet resilience and human warmth. Perhaps a mother shares a gentle lullaby with her child, her voice a soothing balm against the unease of the day, or an elder offers a knowing smile to a neighbor, a subtle gesture that speaks of shared history and unspoken understanding. As you wander these village scenes, the rustle of autumn leaves and the distant tolling of the church bell mingle with the soft murmur of voices, painting a picture of a community tightly woven yet taut with tension. It's a place where faith is both a shield and a lens, coloring every relationship and every breath. In the chill of early morning, as mist clings to the trees and dew sparkles like scattered jewels across the fields, you can sense the weight of history pressing softly on Salem village. The landscape breathes quietly, yet beneath its calm surface, the threads of social and religious tension are beginning to twist tighter. Imagine the village square, where farmers gather to exchange news, their voices lowered to cautious tones. Conversations pivot on ownership disputes, small grievances, and the ever-present concern over who holds favor with the local minister. There's a certain watchfulness in the eyes of those passing by, a subtle calculation of alliances and old wounds. The church stands as the heart of the village, its wooden steeple reaching skyward, a beacon of faith and, paradoxically, a symbol of the strict moral order that governs daily life. Sermons preached within its walls echoed the Puritan emphasis on sin, repentance, and the constant vigilance against the devil's temptations. The villagers, steeped in these teachings, carry the weight of spiritual accountability like a heavy cloak. Yet, within this spiritual framework, human nature weaves its own intricate patterns. Neighbors hold grudges over inherited land. Families compete for social standing. Personal slights linger, unresolved and festering. It's in these quiet tensions, woven through the fabric of everyday life, that the seeds of fear and suspicion find fertile ground. Picture the dim interiors of humble homes, where whispered prayers intertwine with hushed gossip. The crackling of the hearth offers a comforting soundtrack as eyes dart toward the door at the slightest sound. The atmosphere is thick with unspoken worries, a delicate balance between community cohesion and the fractures beneath. Despite the strict codes and watchful eyes, moments of tenderness and humor surface, perhaps a playful jest shared between children or the gentle ribbing among friends. These glimpses remind us that even in times of unrest, life persists in its small joys and human connections. As the day wanes and the sky softens into twilight, the village seems to hold its breath, poised on the edge of change. The quiet murmurs, the shifting glances, the weight of belief, these threads intertwine to create a tapestry of anticipation and unease. Allow yourself to sink deeper into this world, feeling the gentle pulse of a community bound by faith, fear, and the complex dance of human relationships. It is here, in this delicate balance, that the story of Salem's trials begins to unfold, inviting you to listen closely to the whispers carried on the wind. The cool evening air settles softly over Salem village as the last rays of sunlight fade behind the trees. The flicker of candlelight in small windows offers a gentle glow, illuminating faces marked by both hope and hesitation. In this quiet moment, the village breathes, caught between the comfort of tradition and the restless stirrings beneath. You feel the weight of the unspoken stories, the delicate tensions, and the profound faith that shapes every glance and word. It is a world both familiar and distant, inviting you to rest in its stillness while holding space for the complexities to come. You wake to the unsettling stillness that has fallen over Salem village, a quiet more charged than the gentle hush of dawn. In homes scattered along winding dirt roads, soft but rapid breathing breaks the morning calm. Young women and children stir uneasily, their eyes darting like startled birds, faces flushed and marked by sudden shadows of distress. The air feels thick with whispered fears, hushed conversations muffled behind closed doors, the rustle of hurried footsteps, and the faintest tremor of something unknown creeping through the village. You imagine standing quietly in a corner, observing these early signs of a mystery that will soon envelop the whole community. There's a certain strangeness in their behavior, unexpected fits, sudden outbursts, trembling limbs that don't obey. Mothers exchange worried glances as they tend to their daughters, while neighbors gather, trying to piece together the fragments of what might be happening. The scent of herbs and burning sage lingers in some rooms, a humble offering in hopes of relief. Medical knowledge at this time is woven from a blend of observation, superstition, and religious belief. The villagers know of ailments, but these symptoms defy simple explanation. The local healers' remedies offer little comfort, and so the search for understanding begins, clouded by uncertainty. You can almost hear the soft murmur of prayers, the turning of well-worn pages in books of law, and the cautious suggestions passed between elders. Imagine the unease as the community tries to reconcile what they see with what they know, a delicate balance of hope and fear. The atmosphere is thick with questions but light on answers, inviting you into the gentle tension of a time when the invisible touch lives in tangible ways. Through this lens, you feel the fragile pulse of a village on the brink, where each breath and glance carries the weight of mystery and the quiet desire for healing. As the days unfold, you sense the growing ripple of worry weaving through Salem's rustic streets and humble homes. The children and young women affected by this mysterious ailment continue to exhibit curious behaviors, sudden jerks, fainting spells, and strange vocalizations that echo softly through the stillness. Their families watch with a mixture of tenderness and apprehension, brushing back damp hair and whispering soothing words, hoping for respite. The village's limited medical understanding turns its gaze toward a blend of natural and supernatural causes. You can almost hear the low conversations pondering whether this affliction might be the work of unseen spirits or a test of faith. Herbal concoctions bubbled gently over fires, the scent of rosemary and lavender mingling with the pine-scented air, while hands shake nervously as they mix poultices. Imagine stepping into the dim wood-paneled rooms where these remedies are administered, the flicker of candlelight casting long shadows on the walls. The healing arts here are as much about comfort and ritual as about actual cure. And you feel the weight of hope resting in every carefully applied leaf and whispered prayer. Outside, the village remains cloaked in a fog of uncertainty. The local minister's sermons grow increasingly fervent, urging the community to seek spiritual clarity. You hear faint hymns rising with the dawn, voices strained but determined, filling the morning air with a solemn resolve. Despite the communal efforts, the symptoms persist, and the unease deepens. You sense the subtle shift from concern to alarm, as the boundaries between illness, fear, and suspicion begin to blur. The small village, once bound by quiet routines and shared faith, now stands at the threshold of a profound and unsettling chapter. In this moment, you feel the delicate tension of a world struggling to understand the inexplicable, where every breath, every glance, carries the weight of hope, fear, and the search for meaning. As the strange affliction lingers, you notice the shifting dynamics. Within the village, neighbors who once exchanged warm greetings now steal wary glances, and hushed conversations carry an undertone of unease. The air feels heavier, as if the very woods surrounding Salem are holding their breath alongside its people. You imagine walking past modest cottages where families huddle close, their eyes reflecting both worry and exhaustion. In some homes, the faint sounds of whispered prayers mingle with the occasional sob or sudden outcry, painting a picture of a community grappling with an invisible and unsettling force. The village healers, though skilled in their herbal remedies, find themselves at a loss, their hands trembling as they seek new explanations. You can almost feel the tension in the modest apothecary corners, where jars of dried herbs and tinctures line wooden shelves, the scents mingling with the scent of smoke from hearth fires. With limited scientific knowledge, the community looks to spiritual leaders and superstition alike. You can hear the low murmurs suggesting curses or dark forces at play, reflections of deep-seated fears, and the need to find a tangible cause for the inexplicable. This atmosphere of uncertainty and creeping suspicion marks the beginning of a transformation within Salem, a quiet, tense shift that will soon ripple outward, changing the village's story forever. In this gentle, hushed moment, you stand with them, caught between hope and fear, seeking light in the shadowed unknown. The mystery deepens as night falls over Salem, the village settling into a restless quiet. The flicker of candlelight dances through windows, casting elongated shadows that seem to whisper untold stories. Outside, the wind rustles through bare branches, carrying with it the weight of unanswered questions. You feel the pulse of the village's unease, the fragile balance between daily life and the creeping fear of the unknown. It's a delicate moment, one filled with uncertainty, yet touched by the resilience of a community trying to make sense of the strange and unsettling events unfolding around them. The first whispers of accusation ripple quietly through Salem village, like a soft breeze stirring the leaves before a coming storm. You find yourself in a dimly lit room, where the flicker of a single candle illuminates nervous faces, families huddled together, exchanging worried glances and cautious words. The air is thick with tension, as uncertainty settles over the community like a slow fog. You hear the hesitant voices of the afflicted girls, their words trembling yet filled with a strange certainty. Their testimonies, innocent and unsettling, begin to weave a tapestry of suspicion, tales of invisible tormentors, shadowy figures, and sinister enchantments. The very fabric of everyday life starts to fray as these stories take root in the minds of neighbors and elders alike. Behind closed doors, private confessions unfold, some whispered in fear, others in desperation. Families grapple with the unthinkable, that someone they know, perhaps even someone they love, might be connected to these dark happenings. The bonds of trust are tested, and the village's rhythm shifts from calm routine to anxious vigilance. As you move through these moments, you sense how the mixture of fear, uncertainty, and human frailty sets the stage for something far greater than mere illness, a spiral that will carry the village deep into the shadows of accusation and trial. Yet, amidst the growing storm, there is still a profound humanity. Mothers, seeking answers for their children, friends torn between doubt and belief, and communities struggling to hold on to hope. In this quiet, immersive space, you gently explore the delicate balance between fear and faith, accusation and empathy. As you listen, you might wonder, how does a community navigate the fragile line between seeking truth and succumbing to suspicion? How do individual stories of pain and confusion become woven into a collective narrative of blame? And above all, how does the human heart respond when faced with the unknown? Here, in these hushed and trembling moments, the seeds of the Salem witch trials are planted not in thunderous declarations, but in whispered words and anxious glances. It is a beginning marked by uncertainty and the fragile hope for understanding. As the days unfold, the murmurs of suspicion grow louder, spreading like ripples across a still pond, disturbed by an unseen stone. You walk through the village streets, where once familiar faces now carry a shadow of doubt. Conversations fall into hushed tones when certain names arise, and the community feels the gentle but insistent pressure of fear tightening its grip. You catch glimpses of the girls whose afflictions sparked these uneasy times, their eyes darting nervously, their movements sometimes sharp, sometimes withdrawn. Their voices, once soft and uncertain, gain a strange power as their testimonies become the cornerstone of accusation. They describe shadowy figures, invisible torments, and secret gatherings, stories that ripple outwards, touching every corner of the village and beyond. In quiet rooms, neighbors begin to question each other with polite smiles masking deep suspicion. Families who once shared meals now exchange wary glances, unsure of who might be caught in the web of accusation next. The atmosphere is thick with unspoken fears, as if the very air holds its breath, waiting for the next word, the next claim. You find yourself drawn into the unfolding drama, sensing the delicate human emotions beneath the surface, the desperation to protect loved ones, the loneliness of the accused, and the conflicting desires for justice and mercy. It's a tapestry woven with threads of anxiety, hope, and a yearning for truth amid chaos. Even as the first formal accusations take shape, you notice moments of quiet courage, individuals standing to defend the accused, others wrestling with their conscience in the face of mounting pressure. These human stories pulse beneath the headlines, reminding you that history is not just about events, but about the people who lived them. The journey from affliction to allegation is both subtle and profound, a slow turning of the tide that will change Salem forever. As you listen to this unfolding story, you are invited to reflect on the complexities of fear, belief, and the fragile nature of community trust. In these gentle, immersive moments, you step softly alongside those caught in the early shadows of the Salem witch trials, feeling their hopes, fears, and the weight of choices that echo through time. As you continue to walk through the village, the daily routines are tinged with an undercurrent of anxiety. The marketplace, once a lively hub of exchange and chatter, now holds a more cautious energy. You notice how conversations drop as you approach, eyes flickering toward you, then away. There's a shared unspoken question: who might be next? Inside modest homes, families huddle quietly, their whispered prayers a fragile shield against the mounting fears. Mothers hold their children a little tighter, and neighbors avoid lingering too long. You can almost hear the heartbeat of the village quickened, uneasy, caught between faith and fear. At the heart of the turmoil are the young girls, whose fits and strange behaviors have ignited this fearful flame. Their voices echo in the halls, their words both desperate and commanding. They speak of shadows and curses, of secret meetings in the woods, and the dark figures who haunt their dreams. Their stories weave a web that entangles friend and foe alike. Yet beneath the spectacle lies a deeper, human story of girls caught between childhood and womanhood, navigating a world filled with strict expectations and turbulent emotions. Perhaps their afflictions were cries for attention, or the manifestation of unseen psychological pains. Whatever the cause, their testimonies carry an undeniable power, setting the stage for the community's tragic unraveling. Meanwhile, village leaders and ministers grapple with the mounting crisis. Their faces are lined with concern as they weigh evidence, counsel families, and seek guidance from Scripture. You sense their burden torn between duty to their flock and the harsh realities of suspicion and accusation. The line between reality and rumor blurs, and the once tightly knit community begins to fray. You witness the painful transformation of trust into doubt, compassion into accusation. Yet, even in these darkening days, small acts of kindness and courage flicker like candlelight, offering faint hope amid the gathering shadows. The whispers grow louder, yet beneath the clamor lies a tapestry of human hopes and fears, woven tightly by community bonds now stretched thin. In this delicate balance between trust and suspicion, you find yourself gently tracing the steps that led from quiet affliction to the first trembling voices naming witches. Each breath, each glance, every hesitant word carries the weight of lived forever changed. You find yourself stepping quietly into the heart of Salem's meeting house, where the flickering glow of the fire casts long shadows across the worn wooden benches. The air carries the scent of burning pine, mingling with the earthy fragrance of aged books and candle wax. Here, the Puritan ministers and church elders gather, men entrusted with guiding souls through both calm and storm. Their voices rise and fall in measured cadence, each sermon a carefully woven tapestry of hope and warning. The rhythm of their speech echoes softly, a steady drumbeat to the community's collective heart. You can almost hear the faint scratch of quills as scribes note their words, preserving them for the careful reflection of those outside the walls. These sermons are not mere tales. They are lifelines in a world shadowed by the ever-present fear of sin and the devil's influence. The ministers speak of grace and repentance, but their words also carry the weight of vigilance, a call to recognize evil wherever it may lurk, even in the most familiar faces. You imagine the congregation leaning in, eyes wide with a mixture of reverence and anxiety. The ministers invoke Scripture, weaving stories of temptation and redemption that resonate deeply in this tightly knit community. The firelight dances on their earnest faces as they remind listeners of the cosmic battle between good and evil. A battle waged not just in distant heavens, but right here among them. In quiet moments between sermons, the elders confer in hushed tones, their voices threaded with concern and determination. They offer prayers, soft, deliberate utterances, meant to shield the village and strengthen its resolve. The meeting house becomes a sanctuary, a place where faith and fear intertwine, each feeding the other in a delicate balance. You feel the warmth of that faith, its comfort and its sharp edges. It is a faith that demands purity, that sees the hand of the devil in every misfortune. This belief system shapes not only the spiritual life of Salem, but also the very fabric of its social interactions. It is within this charged atmosphere that the seeds of the trials take root. As you listen, you sense the powerful role these men play, only as spiritual guides, but as arbiters of truth and justice. Their words carry authority, their judgments shape the fate of neighbors. And yet, beneath their firm declarations, there is a human striving to protect, to save, and perhaps, to make sense of a world unraveling at the edges. In this quiet chamber, of flickering shadows and fervent prayer, you witness the convergence of faith and fairer force that would soon ripple outward, touching every corner of Salem with its profound and sometimes devastating impact. The meeting house's heavy wooden doors close softly behind you as you step back into the cool Salem evening, the murmurs of prayers and sermons lingering like a gentle echo. Outside, the village breathes under a sky brushed with stars, the distant church bell tolling softly, marking the passage of time amid uncertainty. You imagine the ministers walking slowly through the village streets after service, their breaths visible in the crisp air, carrying not just Scripture but also the weight of responsibility. They are both shepherds and sentinels, guiding their flock while guarding against the invisible, insidious threat they believe is creeping through their homes. The influence of the church stretches into every hearth and household. Families gather by the fire, reciting prayers learned from the pulpit, seeking protection against evil forces. The sound of whispered psalms drifts through open windows, mingling with the crackle of flames and the occasional creak of settling timbers. You might hear a mother's soft lullaby, infused with a plea for divine safeguarding, or a father's solemn vow to stand firm against the darkness. These are the rhythms of daily life, underscored by a faith both comforting and constricting. weaving its way into the very fabric of Salem's existence. This profound spiritual framework shapes how the villagers interpret every event: the sudden illness, the unexplained tremor, the flicker of a candle in the night. In such a world, the line between the physical and the supernatural blurs, and the minister's words resonate deeply, guiding interpretation and action. You sense the delicate balance the clergy must maintain, offering solace while stoking vigilance. Their sermons are both balm and warning, embracing the congregation in a firm embrace of doctrine and discipline. It is this dual role that sets the stage for the trials, as faith fuels fear and fear demands judgment. The meeting house remains a silent witness to these unfolding dramas, its walls steeped in whispered prayers and the heavy burden of belief. As you leave this sacred space behind, you carry with you an understanding of how faith, hope, and fear coalesced in Salem, forming the crucible from which the witch trials would emerge. The nights in Salem become thick with anticipation, the flickering shadows cast by lantern light seeming to dance with unseen forces. The ministers, ever watchful, convene in hushed councils, their voices low yet resolute as they pore over testimonies and scripture, searching for guidance. The crackling firelight illuminates faces etched with concern, the weight of their spiritual duty evident in every furrow and sigh. You imagine the rhythm of their days: mornings spent in study and prayer, afternoons filled with visits to afflicted families, evenings dedicated to sermons that weave caution and comfort in equal measure. Their words ripple through the village like a steady current, shaping thoughts and actions alike. Outside the meeting house, you catch whispers of villagers gathering in small groups, sharing interpretations of the minister's teachings, their conversations laced with both reverence and unease. The church's influence extends beyond doctrine. It molds the social fabric, delineating friend from foe, sinner from saint, innocent from accused. In this environment, suspicion is fertile soil, nurtured by sermons warning of the devil's machinations and the need for communal vigilance. The clergy's role is pivotal. They do not merely preach faith, but also cast the framework through which fear is understood and managed. As the trials begin to unfold, the ministers stand at the crossroads of spiritual guidance and worldly authority. Their prayers echo in the cold chambers where accused women await judgment. Their chants a haunting counterpoint to whispered confessions and trembling witnesses. Through it all, the meeting house remains a sanctuary and a stage, its wooden beams bearing silent testimony to the intertwining of faith and fear that propelled Salem into its darkest chapter. And as you step away, the echoes of sermons and the scent of burning candles linger, a reminder of the profound power of belief in shaping human destiny. The flickering firelight dims as the night deepens, leaving behind a quiet stillness that holds the weight of countless prayers and whispered fears. You feel the calm resonance of faith intertwined with uncertainty, a delicate balance that shaped the hearts and minds of Salem's people. You step gently into the unfolding shadows of Salem, where the air has thickened, not just with the early evening mist, but with a growing unease that seems to seep into every corner of the village. Imagine the wooden homes lining the winding streets, their windows shuttered tight, as if to hold out not just the chill but the creeping fear that now unsettles the community. The quiet murmur of the marketplace feels different, no longer just a place of trade and friendly chatter, but a space charged with cautious glances and whispered speculations. You might catch the faint rustle of a cloak as someone hurriedly passes by, eyes flickering nervously, avoiding direct contact. Behind closed doors, families huddle together, their conversations low, heavy with concern and suspicion. The familiar paths once walked in neighborly ease now feel lined with invisible barriers, each step hesitant, as though the ground itself remembers the tension. This is a world where fear has grown roots deep into the social fabric, stretching across fences and hearths, twisting once solid friendships into fragile threads of doubt. You can almost hear the gentle susurrus of rumors slipping from lips in dimly lit rooms, the tales of secret gatherings, strange noises in the night, and unexplained maladies that find easy scapegoats in those who are different or vulnerable. It's in these moments that neighbors begin to turn quietly against neighbors, driven not by malice but by the primal urge to protect oneself and one's family from unseen threats. You can feel the pull of that instinct, the delicate tension between community and self-preservation, echoing through the nervous glances exchanged at the church steps or the marketplace stalls. Understanding the human psyche behind these accusations reveals a complex dance of hope and desperation. You sense how the mind seeks explanations in chaos, how a shared belief in the supernatural can become both a bomb and a weapon. Accusations, once whispered in secret, now take on a voice in the public square, as fear amplifies and fractures. Deepened out, imagine the marketplace again, now quieter, more cautious, where even the most familiar faces carry the weight of suspicion. The vibrant exchange of goods slows as wary eyes scan crowds for signs of threat. Friendships strain under the weight of accusations, some real, many imagined, all devastating in their effects. And yet, beneath this growing mistrust, there is a profound human story, one of people trying to make sense of their world, grasping for safety in uncertain times. You feel the delicate empathy for those caught in the crossfire, both accusers and accused, each navigating a landscape that shifts beneath their feet. As you walk softly through this charged atmosphere, notice the subtle changes, the once warm greetings replaced by nods of cautious acknowledgement, the hearth fires burning low, casting flickering shadows that dance like specters on the walls. In the quiet moments between the noise, you sense the aching fractures of a community unraveling, yet still holding onto the threads of hope that one day peace might return. You carry this understanding gently, mindful of the complex weave of fear and humanity that defines this chapter of Salem's story. Let the soft rustle of leaves and distant church bells remind you that even in the darkest times, the human spirit seeks connection, compassion, and healing. That as you continue to explore the village's changing landscape, imagine stepping into the daily lives of those who once knew only neighborly warmth but now live amid whispered accusations and quiet suspicion. The close-knit bonds that held Salem together begin to fray, replaced by an invisible tension you can almost feel in the air. Weight pressing gently but persistently on every conversation and glance. Picture the marketplace once more, alive, with the sounds of bartering and laughter, now subdued and cautious. Sellers arrange their wares meticulously, eyes flicking over the crowd, ever watchful. Conversations hush when certain names arise, as if speaking too loudly might invite unseen eyes or ears. You can almost hear the nervous heartbeat of the community, pulsing beneath the surface. In homes, the simple acts of daily life take on new meaning. Mothers clutch their children close, wary of the world beyond their doors. Elders sit by the hearth, sharing stories that now carry a sharper, edgier reminder of the dangers lurking, not just in the shadows but within their own village. The crackle of firewood is no longer just comforting, it is a backdrop to hushed prayers and silent hopes for safety. Through the winding lanes, footsteps become measured and deliberate. Friends who once walked arm in arm now cross the street to avoid each other, their smiles tight and eyes downcast. The very fabric of community is stretched thin, worn by fear and the urgent need for self-preservation. Yet, amid this quiet storm, there is a profound humanity. You sense the internal struggles, the conflict between trust and doubt, kindness and suspicion that each villager carries like a silent burden. It's a delicate dance of survival, where accusing a neighbor can feel like a shield, but also a sword that wounds the accuser's own heart. Imagine a dimly lit meeting house, where elders and ministers gather to discuss these troubling times. The low murmur of voices is punctuated by thoughtful pauses, as each person weighs the balance between justice and mercy, fear and reason. Their decisions ripple outward, shaping the lives of everyone in Salem with gentle yet unyielding force. As you listen, you might catch the soft sighs of those who feel torn between the desire to protect their families and the ache of turning against their own community. It's a story not of villains and heroes, but of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances, their fears and hopes woven together in a fragile tapestry. Let this awareness settle softly within you, like the quiet glow of a candle in a dark room. The tale of Salem's unraveling is a mirror to the complexities of human nature, reminding us how easily fear can shadow compassion, and how resilience often springs from the most unexpected places. That as night falls over Salem, the village seems to hold its breath, waiting for what comes next. Yet beneath the silence, The undercurrent of shared humanity endures an echo of connection that no fear can fully erase. You step quietly into the dimly lit courtroom of Salem, a space where wooden benches creak softly under the weight of anxious bodies. The room is bathed in the flickering glow of candlelight, casting long, wavering shadows across rough-hewn beams and the solemn faces gathered within. The air is thick with a mix of fear, curiosity, and the faint scent of beeswax from the candles, creating an atmosphere that feels both sacred and tense. Around you, voices murmur in hushed tones, punctuated by the sudden earnest declarations of those called to speak. The courtroom is a stage where the drama of justice unfolds, testimonies delivered with trembling conviction, pleas whispered in desperation, and the steady gaze of judges weighing every word with measured gravity. You notice the accused, often pale and wary, seated in a small enclosure, their eyes scanning the room for signs of mercy or condemnation. Their hands might clutch each other tightly, knuckles white with the effort to remain composed. Across from them, the accusers stand, faces flushed with a mix of fear and resolve, their voices sometimes steady, sometimes faltering as they recount eerie encounters or unsettling behaviors. The legal procedures here are unlike the courtrooms you might imagine, informal yet severe, guided more by community fears and religious beliefs than by impartial law. Evidence is scarce and often intangible, relying heavily on testimonies that blur the line between fact and fear. Spectral evidence, claims that the accused spirit appeared to torment the afflicted, hold significant sway, despite the impossible nature of such proof. As the testimonies weave through accusations, confessions, and denials, you become aware of the human emotions swirling beneath the surface: hope, despair, anger, and the faintest glimmer of doubt. The judges, often local ministers and town leaders, try to navigate these turbulent waters, balancing their roles as arbiters of justice and shepherds of the community's moral compass. Occasionally, a witness's voice breaks the hush: a sob, a nervous laugh, a sudden gasp, reminding you that these trials are not just legal proceedings but deeply personal and communal tragedies. The accused may try to maintain their dignity, but the weight of suspicion and the harshness of the accusations are palpable. Despite the gravity of the situation, you catch moments of quiet humanity: a judge offering a comforting word, a family member's subtle gesture of support, or the shared glance between neighbors caught in the crossfire of fear and loyalty. The courtroom, with its simple wooden furnishings and flickering light, becomes a crucible where truth and fear intermingle, shaping destinies with each testimony heard. As you listen, you sense the profound impact these proceedings have on the fabric of Salem's society, reverberating far beyond the walls of this humble chamber. In this solemn space, you're invited to witness the unfolding drama with calm understanding, appreciating the complexities of justice in a time when the line between the natural and supernatural was fragile and uncertain. With each word spoken and each silent pause, the story of Salem's trials deepens, drawing you into a reflection on fear, belief, and the enduring human quest for truth amid uncertainty. As the trial progresses, the rhythm of the courtroom becomes almost hypnotic: the ebb and flow of accusations, the careful questioning, the hesitant responses. You can almost hear the whispered calculations of those present, weighing each word for its truth or danger. The tension is tangible but never overwhelming, held gently in the steady cadence of voices and the soft crackling of candle flames. The judges leaned forward, their brows furrowed, listening intently to testimonies that often mix the tangible with the spectral. They ask pointed questions, seeking to unravel the threads of accusation while contending with their own uncertainties. You might notice how some accused struggle to maintain composure, while others fall silent, overwhelmed by the gravity of their situation. Among the testimonies, the voices of the afflicted young women stand out: a blend of fear, pain, and a curious power. Their claims of visions and attacks by unseen forces are met with both empathy and suspicion, illustrating the delicate balance the court tries to maintain between compassion and authority. You feel the weight of community expectations pressing down on everyone in the room. Each word spoken is not just a statement, but a thread in the complex tapestry of Salem's collective anxiety. The courtroom becomes a mirror reflecting the village's fears, hopes, and fractures. That the legal procedures might seem bewildering from a modern perspective, confessions extracted under duress, evidence based on dreams and visions, and the reliance on spectral accusations, all these reveal a system deeply entwined with the religious and cultural fabric of the time. Yet, despite these challenges, moments of clarity emerge. The occasional defense, a thoughtful question from the judges, or a quiet expression of doubt, offers a glimpse of reason amid the turmoil. You are reminded that behind every accusation and plea is a human story of fear, misunderstanding, and the desperate search for safety. Throughout, the candlelight continues to flicker, casting a gentle glow over the faces gathered, softening the edges of fear and suspicion. The courtroom is more than a place of judgment. It is a space where a community grapples with its shadows, trying to find light. As you listen and imagine these scenes, you are gently invited to hold space for the complexity of human nature, capacity for fear and cruelty, but also for empathy and resilience. The trial is not just a legal event, but a profound moment in the village's history, a story woven with many voices and silent hopes. And so, in the quiet hush between testimonies, you feel the pulse of Salem itself, a community caught in a delicate dance between belief and doubt, justice and fear, unfolding softly in the candlelit chamber. The flickering candlelight dims slowly as the day's proceedings draw to a close. Quiet settles over the courtroom like a gentle sigh, leaving behind the echoes of voices and the weight of unspoken thoughts. You imagine the villagers stepping out into the cool evening air, carrying with them the fragile threads of hope and anxiety that weave through the heart of Salem. In this space of stillness, you feel the deep humanity of those moments, their fears, their courage, and the complex dance between judgment and mercy. And as the room empties, the stories linger softly, inviting you to rest with the quiet understanding of a community forever changed. Quietly waiting for dawn, you find yourself stepping into a dimly lit chamber, the air thick with whispers and the faint scent of burning tallow. Shadows flicker along rough wooden walls, stretching and shifting as candle flames dance in quiet, uneven rhythm. The atmosphere is charged with a strange tension, one born not of what is seen, but of what is felt, and most importantly, what is unseen. Here, in Salem's courtrooms and parlors, spectral evidence held a peculiar power. It was evidence unlike any other, intangible yet compelling, a kind of proof drawn from visions, apparitions, and ghostly visitations. Accusers claimed to see the shadows of witches' spirits tormenting them, phantoms, twisting and writhing in invisible chains, specters appearing in fits and convulsions, their faces marked by menace or despair. Imagine for a moment the scene: a young woman, eyes wide and shimmering, pointing toward an empty corner of the room, her voice trembling as she describes a shadowy figure that only she can perceive. The jury, the judges, the gathered townsfolk, they listen intently, their gazes flickering between the accuser and the void she describes. The silence is thick, punctuated only by the rustling of fabric and the occasional sharp intake of breath. The belief in these spectral visitations was rooted deeply in the Puritan worldview. In a time when the line between the physical and spiritual worlds was thin and fluid, what the eyes could not see was often given as much weight as tangible proof. The unseen world was alive and active, a realm where spirits battled for the souls of the living, and where the devil's influence was ever present. Lurking behind every misfortune, it's easy to imagine how spectral evidence could seize the minds and hearts of a fearful community. The idea that a witch's spirit could torment you while her body remained elsewhere, untouched and free, was terrifying and maddeningly difficult to defend against. If the evidence was invisible, how could one prove innocence? How could one argue against a pain or vision so personal, so visceral? Now, think of the accusers themselves, their trembling hands, the quickened pulse, the genuine fear and anguish. These were not just lies concocted in darkness, but experiences deeply felt. Whether the spirits were truly present or conjured by the human mind's extraordinary power to manifest fear, the impact was real and immediate. Court proceedings grew surreal as more spectral testimonies poured in, each adding layers to an already tangled web of suspicion. Accused women stood silent or pleaded as invisible phantoms were cited as evidence of their guilt. The lines between reality and perception blurred. Truth became entangled with belief, and belief with the collective anxieties of a community on edge. The acceptance of spectral evidence had a profound effect on verdicts. Judges and jurors, steeped in religious conviction, found themselves navigating an impossible balance between reason and faith. While some expressed private doubts, the pressure of community expectations and spiritual duty often outweighed skepticism. As you breathe in the faint chill that seems to linger in these you may find yourself pondering the very nature of perception. How do our minds interpret fear, stress, and uncertainty? How easily can invisible forces, real or imagined, shape the course of lives and history? And what happens when justice relies not only on facts, but on shadows and whispers? This is the haunting power of spectral evidence, an unseen weight, both literal and metaphorical, pressing heavily on the shoulders of Salem's accused and accusers alike. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound truths lie not in what can be proven, but in what is believed, feared, and felt deep within the human spirit. As you linger in this space of quiet reflection, the candlelight dims ever so slightly, casting longer shadows that seem to dance just beyond your sight. The whispered fears of those long ago echo softly, inviting you to consider the delicate dance between reality and perception, between justice and fear. You might imagine the courtroom again, the weight of each testimony hanging in the air, invisible, yet palpable, shaping destinies with nothing more than the power of belief. And in that fragile moment, you sense the profound human vulnerability that allowed spectral evidence to carry such sway, a vulnerability born of uncertainty, isolation, and the profound desire to make sense of the inexplicable. Let this thought settle gently as you ease deeper into calm, carrying with you a renewed understanding of how unseen forces, whether spiritual, psychological, or social, can guide the course of history in ways both subtle and profound. The flickering candlelight softens completely now, and a peaceful stillness settles around you, with the echoes of whispered fears and unseen shadows gently fading. You're left with a quiet understanding of the delicate threads that wove together belief, fear, and justice in those moments long past. You settle in, feeling the gentle warmth of the candle's glow flickering nearby, as your mind turns toward the people who lived, feared, and fought during those tense days in Salem. These were not just names on dusty pages or shadows in history. They were complex individuals, each with their own stories, fears, hopes, and contradictions. Let's begin with the judges. The men who wore robes heavier than their consciences, tasked with weighing truth and accusation in equal measure. Picture them seated in the modest courtroom, wooden benches creaking beneath their weight, faces illuminated by candlelight, brows furrowed as they listened intently to the swirling claims around them. Some were stern, their voices carrying the authority of both law and faith, while others displayed flickers of doubt beneath their solemn exterior. Imagine one judge adjusting his spectacles nervously, stealing a glance toward the young accusers with a mixture of suspicion and pity, while another scribbled notes with a restless hand, his mind racing to balance justice with the mounting hysteria. Now, let's turn toward the accusers themselves, the young women whose voices became the thunderclap that shook Salem's foundations. They moved through the village with a quiet intensity, their wide eyes darting between neighbors, their hands twitching with the invisible weight of unseen forces. You might notice the way one accuser clutches a faded handkerchief, her breath shallow but voice clear as she describes visions only she can see. Another may shift nervously, cheeks flushed, as she recounts the strange contortions and faint whispers that have taken hold of her senses. There's a mix of youthful innocence and unexpected boldness, as if these girls carry a secret language, one that both empowers and isolates them. Across from them sit the accused, individuals caught in the storm with hearts pounding like drums. In a silent forest, imagine a middle-aged woman, her hands folded tightly in her lap, lips pressed thin as she listens to the charges leveled against her. The flickering light casts deep shadows on her lined face, each wrinkle telling tales of hard work and whispered prayers. Nearby, a young man shifts uneasily, his eyes flickering with a mix of defiance and despair, as his accuser's words swirl around him like cold wind. There's a shared vulnerability among these souls, a quiet courage in facing an uncertain fate, and an enduring humanity beneath the labels of witch or heretic. Beyond these central figures, the courtroom fills with others, the anxious families, the curious townsfolk, the scribes capturing every word, The air hums with a mix of tension and whispered speculation, the crackling of hearth fires outside, a distant comfort against the storm inside. A mother clasps her child tightly, while a neighbor exchanges a knowing glance with a friend, both wondering how this will end. In this moment, you're not just an observer of history or a witness to the humanity, the complexities, and the quiet dramas unfolding within those wooden walls. Each face, each voice, carries a story woven into the fabric of Salem's tragic chapter, reminding you that behind every accusation and verdict were people flawed, fearful, hopeful, and deeply human. You lean a little closer, feeling the weight of these lives as if you're sitting beside them in that dimly lit room. Imagine the judges like Judge Hathorne, stern and unyielding, his gaze sharp as a hawk's, ready to slice through deceit or truth alike. His voice, firm but measured, carries authority, yet beneath it, you might sense a flicker of uncertainty, man wrestling with the enormity of his decisions. Or think of Judge Danforth, tall and imposing, his robe sweeping the wooden floor, his words heavy with the weight of divine judgment. He believed deeply in his mission to root out evil, but you might glimpse in his quiet moments a shadow of doubt, the burden of lives entrusted to his verdicts. Then there are the accusers, young, impressionable, yet fierce in their accusations. Take Abigail Williams, her eyes darting like restless fireflies, her voice trembling but resolute as she names those she believes cursed by witchcraft. Her youth blends with the sharpness, a complicated dance of fear, power, and survival. Nearby, Betty Paris whispers urgently, her breaths quick, her face flushed with the heat of her visions. Each girl carries a secret language of pain and fear, a blend of innocence and manipulation that ripples through the courtroom like an unseen current dot. Now, the accused people like Sarah Good, whose weathered hands tell stories of hardship, her voice barely above a whisper as she defends herself. Or Giles Corey, stoic and unbroken even as the weight of his silence becomes his final, defiant act. Picture RebeccaNurse.com and composed, her dignity unshaken despite the accusations, embodying quiet strength amid the storm. Each of them has a story beyond the charge of witchcraft. Neighbors, friends, and family caught in the web of fear. You can almost hear the murmurs of the crowd outside, some filled with dread, others with morbid curiosity. Families clutch each other, hoping for mercy or justice, while others exchange wary glances, wondering who might be next. The scent of damp earth from outside mingles with the faint aroma of burning tallow candles inside, grounding this intense human drama in the everyday world. Feel the tension and tenderness in this moment, the weight of judgment, the sting of betrayal, the flicker of hope. It's a quiet storm of humanity, complex and poignant, unfolding in the flickering candlelight of Salem's courtroom. You notice how even in such trying times, small human gestures, an exchanged glance, a whispered encouragement, a trembling hand gripping a loved one's arm bring warmth and connection to the coldness of the courtroom. Behind the stern facades and the harsh words, there are lives touched by love, loss, and hope. As the testimonies unfold, the voices, some steady, others faltering, fill the room with a raw honesty that transcends the fear. Imagine the softness in Sarah Cloyce's voice when she pleads her innocence, or the quiet dignity of Martha Corey, who faces her accusers with unwavering resolve. Each person's story is a thread in the fabric of Salem's history, woven with care and depth. The judges, while stern, are not without their own burdens. You might sense moments when Judge Hathorne pauses, his furrowed brow betraying his internal conflict. The weight of making life or death decisions is palpable, and even his firm demeanor hints at the human strain beneath the robe and gavel. The accuser's fervor is tempered by the complexities of youth and survival. Abigail's sharp tongue and quick-wit mask of vulnerability, a child navigating a world that demands strength beyond her years. Their testimonies are not mere accusations, but a complicated interplay of fear, power, and desperation. As you sit with these scenes, the courtroom becomes more than a place of judgment. It's a stage for humanity's vast spectrum of emotions and experiences. The echo of footsteps, the creak of wooden benches, the soft rustle of papers all blend into a symphony of life. In the throes of crisis. You find yourself stepping softly into a dimly lit Puritan home, where the flicker of a single candle casts long shadows on wooden walls, the scent of burning tallow mingles with the earthy aroma of worn oak, and the quiet hush is punctuated by the occasional creak of settling beams. In this quiet, almost reverent atmosphere, the ever-present fear of unseen forces lingers, shaping thoughts and prayers alike. Imagine the forest just beyond the village, its edges dark and mysterious under the pale moonlight. The rustling of leaves whispers secrets carried by the wind, and the shadows between trees seem alive with possibility. It is here, on the cusp of the known and unknown, that many believed the devil's minions might roam, ready to tempt or torment the unwary. The Puritans, deeply rooted in their faith, held a worldview where the spiritual and physical worlds intertwined seamlessly. Life was understood as a constant struggle between the forces of good, embodied by God and the faithful, and evil, personified by the devil and his witches. This was not a tale of fantasy but a reality that permeated every aspect of daily life. From the prayers whispered at dawn to the stern sermons echoing through the meeting house, you can almost hear the low murmur of whispered prayers, voices steady, yet tinged with anxiety, calling for protection against malevolent spirits. The family's youngest child clings to a mother's skirts, eyes wide as tales of witches and their dark arts weave through the conversation like a thread of shadow. The origins of these beliefs stretch far back, shaped by centuries of theological teachings and folklore. The idea of witches, humans who had made pacts with the devil, served as a way to explain misfortune, illness, and natural disasters in a world where science had yet to offer clear answers. It was a framework that provided structure and meaning amidst uncertainty, a map for navigating the invisible dangers believed to lurk everywhere. Consider, too, the role of scripture and sermons in reinforcing these fears. Passages warning against witchcraft and satanic deception were read aloud, their words etched deep into the community's conscience. The sermon's rhythmic cadences, combined with the solemnity of the setting, left a lasting imprint on hearts and minds. Yet within this intense belief system was also a sense of hope and communal resilience. The fight against the devil's influence was not only a personal spiritual battle, but a collective endeavor. Through prayer, vigilance, and adherence to moral codes, the Puritans sought to safeguard their souls and their community from corruption and chaos. Reflecting on this worldview invites you to appreciate the profound ways that culture, religion, and environment shape human understanding of the world. It's a reminder that fear of the unknown, and the stories we tell to make sense of it, are universal threads woven through the human experience. You can almost hear the whispered prayers rising from behind shuttered windows, the earnest voices seeking protection from a world seen as precariously balanced between divine order and diabolical chaos. The fear of the devil was not merely superstition, but a profound spiritual reality, one that infused every moment with caution and reverence. Imagine standing at the edge of a village green as the sun dips low, casting long shadows that seem to stretch and twist with hidden menace. The Puritan heart viewed such scenes as fraught with spiritual significance. A misstep here, a careless word there, could open the door to evil's grasp. Witches, believed to be agents of the devil, were seen as very real threats, not just to individuals but to the moral fabric of the entire community. Within the homes, the rituals of faith provided both solace and vigilance. Families gathered around simple wooden tables, reading passages from the Bible that warned of sorcery and temptation. The scent of burning herbs, perhaps rosemary or sage, mingled with the crisp air, a small defense against the invisible forces they feared. These acts were both an expression of devotion and a shield against the devil's wiles. The belief in witchcraft was deeply intertwined with the Puritans' understanding of good and evil, sin and salvation. Every failed crop, a sudden illness, a lost child, was potentially the result of a malevolent force, a sign that the devil's influence was at work. This worldview created a heightened awareness of the spiritual realm, where angels and demons walked alongside men and women. Think about the psychological weight this belief carried. It was not just external threats but internal struggles, fear that one might fall prey to temptation or unknowingly harbor evil within. The community's strict codes of behavior, its emphasis on confession and repentance, were ways to combat this ever-present danger. Yet, amidst the shadows, there was also a resilient faith, a conviction that, through piety and communal effort, the devil's designs could be thwarted. The Puritan spirit, forged in the crucible of these fears, was one of discipline, perseverance, and hope that divine light would ultimately overcome darkness. As you listen, let yourself feel the delicate balance of fear and faith that shaped an entire way of life, the quiet determination to live rightly, even in the face of unseen terrors, speaks to the universal human quest for meaning, safety, and peace. The candle flickers again, a soft glow in the twilight, illuminating the profound and complex relationship between belief and experience. It invites you to hold this story gently, with understanding and compassion. As the night deepens and your mind drifts toward calm reflection, the flickering candlelight dances softly on rough wooden walls, casting shadows that seem to move with a life of their own, reminders of the unseen forces that Puritans believed inhabited both the physical and spiritual worlds. You can almost hear the quiet footsteps of villagers making their way home through the forested paths, each step measured, mindful of the lurking presence of evil. Their prayers, whispered beneath their breaths, create an invisible shield of faith, a barrier against the darkness they so deeply feared. Imagine the solemnity of a winter's evening, the biting cold driving families close to their hearths. Outside, the wind sighs through the bare branches, a mournful sound that stirs the imagination. Inside, the comforting crackle of firewood offers warmth, yet the mind wanders to stories told in hushed tales of witches convening under the moonlight, of familiars skulking in the night, and the ever-watchful devil enticing souls to stray. These narratives were woven into the fabric of daily life, shaping thoughts and actions in subtle yet profound ways. Within this world, every misfortune held a deeper meaning. When a child fell ill or livestock perished, eyes often turned toward those who might be harboring dark secrets neighbors once trusted, now suspects in the silent war against evil. The very air was thick with suspicion and the urgent need for vigilance. The Puritans saw themselves as warriors in a spiritual battle, defending their community from corruption and chaos. You might notice how the Puritan faith intertwined with this worldview, faith marked by intense devotion, discipline, and an acute awareness of sin. The sermons echoed with warnings, urging congregants to examine their hearts and root out any trace of evil within. This internal struggle was as fierce as the external fight against the devil's agents. The community's moral code was strict, demanding purity of thought and deed as armor against spiritual attack. Yet, there was also a hopeful side of belief that through repentance, prayer, and righteous living, divine protection was assured. The church was not only a place of worship, but a sanctuary where the light of God pushed back the shadows. The rhythm of daily prayers and communal gatherings created a structure of safety and solidarity, binding the community together in shared faith. As you listen, allow yourself to be gently enveloped in this world of contrasts, the tension between fear and hope, darkness and light, suspicion and compassion. Feel the weight of history balanced with the warmth of human resilience. As the story unfolds quietly around you, let the softness of the narration guide you toward a place of calm understanding, where even the darkest beliefs hold lessons about our need for connection, meaning, and protection. The gentle flicker of the candlelight slows, casting a soft, steady glow that calms the mind and soothes the spirit. As the evening deepens, so too does your sense of peace, nestled within the quiet understanding of a time shaped by deep fears and profound faith. You find yourself in the heart of Salem village, where daily life pulses quietly with the rhythms of work and family, and yet beneath the calm surface, the currents of power and suspicion flow strong, especially where women are concerned. Imagine the warm texture of woven cloth slipping through nimble fingers, the soft clatter of wooden looms, setting a gentle pace to the day. Women gather, tending to tasks both humble and vital, spinning thread, preparing meals, caring for children with tender hands. Their lives are a tapestry of strength and care, woven deeply into the fabric of their community. Yet, in this world, the roles women hold are double-edged. They are the nurturers, the keepers of tradition, and yet also the ones whose independence and knowledge sometimes stir uneasy whispers. It's no surprise, then, that the witch trials cast their long shadows, mostly on women's oaths, whose power, however quiet, unsettled the rigid order. Walk with me through a sunlit kitchen, where the scent of baking bread mingles with the murmur of soft voices, sharing stories and concerns. Here, women are the storytellers and the historians, wielding words as deftly as any sword. Their influence is profound, but often invisible, threaded through the homes and hearts of the village. Now imagine the cool stillness of a small parlor, where a woman sits weaving a basket, her thoughts as intricate as the patterns she creates. She is resilient, accustomed to bearing burdens with grace. Yet the eyes of neighbors sometimes linger a little too long, filled with suspicion or envy. The fear of witchcraft taps into deeper anxieties about control and the unknown. Women who stepped beyond expected boundaries, whether in speech, behavior, or even simple acts of healing with herbs and knowledge, became targets in a world eager to maintain order and silence difference. Yet, amid this, there is undeniable resilience. Women draw strength from each other, from shared rituals and whispered prayers. They hold community together with a quiet power that can neither be easily measured nor crushed. As you imagine these scenes, the warm glow of a hearth, the gentle clink of spinning wheels, the soft laughter echoing through humble homes, feel the complex dance of fear and strength, control and courage that shaped Salem's story. Here, the gendered pulse of power beats softly but persistently, reminding us that history is lived in the small moments as much as the great ones, often carried forward by those whose voices were once pushed to the margins. So let yourself be wrapped in this gentle understanding, the nuanced lives of women at the center of Salem's trials, and the enduring spirit that whispers through time. You settle into the soft cadence of daily life, noticing how the roles women played were both the source of their strength and, paradoxically, the reason they became the focus of suspicion. Picture the steady hands that cradle infants, the thoughtful eyes that observe village patterns, and the skilled fingers that tend gardens and prepare remedies from the earth. In Salem, women were the heartbeat of the home and the community, yet their influence was viewed through a lens shaped by fear and control. Its gentle work, this weaving of social ties, yet it held immense power, a power that could be threatening in a time when strict hierarchies sought order above all else. Imagine the quiet resilience it took to navigate a world where speaking too freely or healing with herbs might spark rumors. These women carried their knowledge carefully, passed down through generations, all while guarding their own safety in an atmosphere thick with suspicion. And so, the witch trials unfolded not just as a legal tragedy, but as a reflection of gender dynamics deeply rooted in the fabric of society. Women, often marginalized, found themselves at the center of a storm fueled by fear, jealousy, and the desire to maintain control. Still, even in these fraught moments, the subtle strength of community and solidarity persisted. In whispered conversations behind closed doors, in shared rituals and mutual support, women found ways to endure. Let your mind wander through these intimate scenes, the glow of candlelight flickering on faces drawn with both worry and resolve, the quiet gathering of women supporting one another against the weight of accusation. This is a story not only of fear, but also of courage, resilience, and the complex interplay of gender and power. As you rest here in this space, allow a gentle reflection on the multifaceted lives of these women, their fears, their strength, and the enduring legacy they left behind, woven quietly but indelibly into the history of Salem. You can almost hear the soft rustle of fabric as a woman adjusts her apron, preparing for another day filled with both care and caution. The scent of fresh bread mingles with the earthy aroma of herbs drying by the hearth, a reminder of the domestic realm that these women mastered. Yet beneath this familiar scene lies a web of unspoken power, a subtle authority in managing households, nurturing families, and sustaining community life. Their hands, skilled in both the gentle art of healing and the firmness required to stand against suspicion, moved with purpose. The laughter of children playing nearby is tinged with an undercurrent of unease, as neighbors watch one another with guarded eyes. The social fabric is delicate, woven with threads of trust and fear. Reflect on the complex emotions stirring in these women: hope, defiance, and the quiet strength to survive. They are caretakers, storytellers, and, in many ways, the keepers of the community's heart. Yet, they must navigate a world where their very presence could be questioned, where a word spoken out of turn might be twisted into evidence. It's a dance of balance between visibility and invisibility, voice and silence, presence and caution. This duality shapes their daily lives, their relationships, and ultimately, their fates. As the sun sets behind the distant hills, casting long shadows over Salem's streets, imagine the whispered prayers and shared glances among women who understand. This delicate existence, their resilience, though often overlooked, is a testament to human endurance amid adversity. Allow yourself to rest in this gentle contemplation, honoring the unseen courage of women who, despite the odds, sustained life and hope in a time of fear and uncertainty. The soft glow of evening wraps around the village, carrying with it the quiet strength of these women woven into the very fabric of Salem's story. Their footsteps may have been muted by history's whispers, but their spirit lingers, a steady heartbeat beneath the surface. As you settle deeper into this calm reflection, feel their resilience echo gently within you, a timeless reminder of courage and grace in the face of shadowed times. You find yourself under the gentle cloak of night, the world hushed and softened by the silvery light of a full moon. The air is cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth, as if nature itself holds its breath. Here, in the shadows of Salem village, stories of escape and survival begin to unfold, quiet tales whispered between the trees and hidden behind shuttered windows. Imagine a narrow, winding path, scarcely wider than a child's arm span, leading away from the village heart. The soft rustle of leaves brushes against the skin, mingling with the cautious footsteps of those fleeing. Moonlight glimmers on a small bundle hurriedly carried, the muffled murmur of urgent voices barely above a whisper. Fear pulses like a steady heartbeat, but beneath it, a fierce determination to live, to evade the grasp of suspicion and accusation. Within these silent escapes, you can almost feel the warmth of human courage, a mother clutching her child close, a neighbor guiding a friend through the underbrush, their breaths shallow and measured. The smell of damp moss and rich soil rises as they move swiftly but carefully, mindful of every crackling twig underfoot. Their eyes, wide and alert, scan for any sign of danger, every shadow a potential threat. Back in the village, other stories unfold more quietly, not of flight, but of endurance. Picture the small, dimly lit rooms where families huddled together, doors bolted tight, shutters closed against the prying eyes of the outside world. The scent of beeswax candles mingles with the faint aroma of dried herbs hung to ward off evil spirits. Whispered prayers fill the still air, a steady cadence that offers comfort amid uncertainty. In these hidden sanctuaries, resilience takes root. You can almost hear the soft scratch of a pen as letters of plea or defense are penned in secret, the scratch echoing hope across parchment. There are muffled coughs from the sick, the gentle rocking of a cradle, and the quiet tears of those separated by fear, but bound by love and faith. The resourcefulness of those enduring is remarkable. Simple meals stretched with careful rationing, small garden plots tended in secret to provide sustenance, and clever disguises woven to blend into the crowd. The texture of worn cloth and the soft thud of footsteps crossing creaky floorboards speak of lives balanced on the edge between despair and hope. Imagine the courage it took to face each new day, to walk the village streets with steady shoulders while harboring fears and secrets deep within. The hushed exchange of glances, the subtle signs of solidarity among neighbors, these small acts of defiance and support became lifelines in a fractured community. Even the act of breathing in the fresh air outside, feeling the sun's warmth on the skin, held a quiet rebellion, a reminder of life's persistence against the weight of suspicion. The gentle hum of insects and the distant call of a night bird offered a soothing soundtrack to these moments of survival. As you settle into this reflection, let your mind wander through these moonlit escapes and candlelit refuges. Picture the strength found in silence and shadows, the hope kindled in whispered plans and shared courage. Feel the quiet admiration for those who fled and those who stayed, whose resilience carried them through one of history's most harrowing times. Their stories are not of grand battles or loud victories, but of subtle bravery, the kind that lives in the heartbeat beneath fear, in the soft breath held steady, in the hands that gently close a door or offer a comforting touch. These are the legacies of survival, echoes that remind us of the human spirit's enduring light, even in the darkest nights. As dawn slowly peeks over the horizon, casting a pale glow on the sleeping village, those who have fled find brief moments of respite. The world feels still, wrapped in a quiet calm that contrasts sharply with the turmoil they escaped. Imagine the dew-kissed grass beneath tired feet, the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a soft morning breeze, and the distant call of birds, welcoming a new day. In these stolen hours, the survivors gather in small, hidden clearings, safe havens carved out by necessity and trust. Here, beneath the protective canopy of ancient trees, whispered stories are shared. You can almost hear the hushed laughter breaking through the tension, the comforting murmur of familiar voices reminding one another of home, of what was left behind but not forgotten. Meanwhile, in Salem, the village slowly awakens. The sun's warmth pours over weathered timber and rough-hewn stone, illuminating faces etched with worry and fatigue. Inside the homes still occupied, soft sounds of preparation fill the air, the scraping of wooden bowls, the flick of a broom against the floor, the rustle of fabric as families dress for the uncertain day ahead. The resilience of those who remained is palpable. Picture a mother rocking her child gently, singing lullabies that blend hope and history. See the elderly weaving baskets, hands steady despite the weight of grief. Smell the earthy scent of freshly turned soil from small garden plots tended carefully to nourish bodies and spirits alike. In the quiet corners of Salem, alliances form, neighbors offering whispered support, shared meals, and safe harbor when fear threatens to overwhelm. The tactile sensation of hands grasping hands in solidarity, the warmth of a shared blanket on a cold night. These simple acts of kindness ripple outward, strengthening the fragile fabric of community. Reflect on the delicate balance between vigilance and compassion, fear and empathy, that defined these times. Consider how survival was not merely a physical act, but a deeply human one, woven with threads of love, courage, and an unyielding desire for peace. As your thoughts drift through these scenes, imagine carrying the quiet strength of these stories with you, a gentle reminder that even in moments of great challenge, the spirit can find ways to endure, to heal, and to hope. Let this understanding settle within you, wrapping around like a soft shawl, soothing and steadying. As you rest in the shared humanity of those who lived, fled, and survived in Salem's shadowed days, the soft hush of night settles over the land once more, carrying with it the quiet resilience of those who endured and those who escaped. In these gentle moments, their stories linger, whispers on the breeze, footprints softly fading into the earth, a timeless echo of courage and hope. The morning breaks softly over Salem, the mist weaving quietly through the trees and settling gently over the fields. It's a world hushed, as if holding its breath, waiting with a solemn patience for the day's heavy proceedings to unfold. You can almost feel the cool dampness in the air, the faint scent of wet earth mingling with the distant crackle of a hearth fire awakening in a nearby cottage. Along the narrow, winding path leading to the meeting house, figures move with slow, measured steps. There's a weight in the air, a mix of anticipation, sorrow, and quiet resolve. Families clutch each other close, their breath visible in the chilly morning, while neighbors gather in small clusters, speaking only in hushed tones. The scent of pine drifts in from the forest, grounding the moment in nature's steady calm. Even amid such human turmoil. At the center of this scene stands the scaffold, a simple wooden platform bathed in the soft glow of dawn. It is here that the stark realities of justice and fear meet, a place where life and death are balanced on the edge of whispered prayers and final farewells. You notice the subtle trembling of hands, the downcast eyes, and the gentle sobs, muffled beneath shawls and scarves. It is a moment heavy with empathy, and the air seems to vibrate with the unspoken grief of a community torn. Imagine the accused, stepping forward with a mix of courage and resignation, their footsteps echoing softly on the wooden planks. Their voices, when they speak, are low but steady, offering prayers or silent pleas, a quiet defiance, or a surrender to fate. Around them, loved ones offer comfort with gentle touches or murmured blessings, creating a fragile circle of humanity. Amid the unfolding sorrow, in the nearby jail, too, the atmosphere is thick with waiting and uncertainty. The heavy wooden doors creak open to reveal cold stone cells, where others sit in stillness, the weight of confinement pressing upon their shoulders. The faint smell of dampness and straw mingles with the sharpness of candle smoke. Within these walls, moments stretch endlessly, filled with whispered conversations, prayer beads sliding through fingers, and the steady rhythm of a heart bracing for what's to come. The community watches with a mixture of sorrow and fear. The heavy silence, occasionally broken by the soft cadence of a minister's prayers or the rustling of worn garments. You can sense the complicated threads of justice, fear, and humanity weaving through the day. Each moment, a quiet struggle between the need for order and the recognition of human frailty. Reflect gently on the nature of justice during this time, shaped by beliefs and uncertainties far removed from our modern sense of fairness. It was a world where suspicion could shadow a lifetime, and mercy was a fragile, often elusive visitor. Yet, even in the midst of such heaviness, there is room for compassion, for the shared human experience of fear, hope, and the search for meaning in hardship. As the sun climbs higher, its light softens the edges of grief, casting long shadows that stretch across the village square. The murmurs of final prayers rise and fall like a gentle tide, carrying with them the weight of countless stories of lives lived and lost, of communities bound and broken. You are invited to hold these moments with quiet respect, allowing the deep currents of history to flow gently through your mind. In the stillness, there is a space to contemplate not just the events themselves, but the enduring human spirit that persists in the face of sorrow. Let the imagery of this somber morning linger, the mist-shrouded fields, the soft sobs hidden beneath the folds of cloth, the whispered prayers carried on the breeze. In this calm, reflective space, you can feel the profound complexity of justice and humanity, intertwined in a delicate dance that echoes across the centuries. The day unfolds with a steady, measured pace as the village moves through its solemn rituals. Each act is performed with a quiet dignity, the careful arrangement of the noose, the positioning of the condemned, the solemn words of the officiants. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and burning wood, mingling with the faint sweetness of spring blossoms, reluctant to bloom in such somber times. Around the execution site, you notice the faces of those who have gathered, some etched with sorrow, others tightened in grim resolve. Children peer from behind their parents, wide-eyed and hushed, as the weight of the moment settles over them like a heavy blanket. The elders stand silently, their prayers a silent undercurrent beneath the murmur of the crowd. As the final moments approach, time seems to slow. You can almost hear the collective heartbeat of the gathering, steady yet strained. The condemned offer one last prayer or look to the heavens, seeking peace in a world that has turned harsh and unforgiving. Their courage, quiet and profound, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even when faced with the darkest of fates. In the aftermath, the crowd disperses slowly, footsteps muffled on the soft earth. The village returns to its daily rhythms, but the shadows of the day linger, woven into the fabric of each home, each whispered conversation. The weight of loss and the quiet lessons of justice remain, a gentle reminder of a chapter in history marked by fear, faith, and the complex dance of humanity. As night falls, imagine the soft flicker of candlelight in windows, the hushed prayers said behind closed doors, and the stillness that blankets Salem. In this calm, reflective moment, you carry with you the echoes of those somber days, a quiet tribute to lives remembered, and a gentle hope for understanding that transcends time. You find yourself in Salem village as the once unshakable certainty begins to waver. The sun rises softly over the fields, casting a gentle light over the familiar houses and winding dirt roads. Yet beneath this peaceful morning, a subtle shift is stirring in the hearts and minds of the villagers. The crackling of hearth fires warms homes where families gather, whispering about the events that have unfolded. You can almost hear the gentle tolling of church bells, their steady rhythm carrying a message of reflection and change. The community, once gripped by fear and suspicion, starts to breathe a little easier as doubts creep into conversations and prayers. Ministers who once spoke with unwavering conviction now carry a quiet weight. In the dim light of their studies, their hands tremble over worn Bibles as they grapple with the consequences of their words. Their sermons soften, filled with appeals for mercy and forgiveness, The flickering candlelight reveals eyes that have witnessed to much sorrow and are searching for redemption. You imagine walking through the village square, noticing how neighbors, once divided by accusations, now share tentative smiles and cautious greetings. The marketplace is less tense, the air lighter with the scent of fresh bread and blooming lilacs. Children play with less fear, shadowing their laughter, and elders sit by the firesides, sharing stories that blend sorrow with hope. In quiet moments, you hear prayers whispered in the chapel, pleas for healing and peace. The wooden pews hold the faithful who have come not just to seek comfort, but to reflect on the path that led them here. These prayers ripple through the stillness like a bomb, inviting forgiveness both for others and for themselves. Letters begin to circulate, written in careful script, expressing regrets and calls for justice, tempered by mercy. The village leaders, once firm in their pursuit, now hesitate, weighing the cost of continued trials against the yearning for community restoration. You sense the collective heart of Salem turning gently toward healing. Outside, the forests stand calm, their ancient trees witnessing the slow unraveling of fear. The gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of birds create a soothing soundtrack to a community in transition. The seasons seem to echo this change, the stubborn cold of winter giving way to the promise of spring's renewal. You feel the warmth of forgiveness blooming quietly in Salem, a delicate flower emerging after a long, harsh winter. This change does not erase the pain or the loss, but it offers a path forward, one marked by reflection, understanding, and a renewed commitment to compassion. As the trials come to a close, the village gathers not in accusation but in remembrance. Candlelit vigils honor those who suffered, their stories carried gently in the voices of the living. You imagine the community, holding hands and hearts open, stepping softly into a future shaped by lessons learned and the enduring hope for peace. And so Salem moves from a place of fear to a place of quiet grace, its people touched by the profound power of change, forgiveness, and the gentle light of a new dawn. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the village, you sense the calm that now settles over Salem, a stark contrast to the storm that once raged here. The echoes of past fears have softened, replaced by the soft murmur of reconciliation and quiet acts of kindness in homes and hearts alike. There is a growing understanding that humanity's mistakes, though heavy, offer room to grow. The lessons, etched into Salem's history, remind you gently that even in the darkest of times, the light of hope and forgiveness can find its way back. You breathe in the crisp evening air, carrying the scent of pine and hearth smoke, and feel the steady rhythm of life, returning a rhythm that balances memory with healing, fear with compassion, and with that, you rest easy, wrapped in the soothing embrace of a community learning to forgive and move forward. Imagine yourself sitting beneath a gently swaying tree, the late autumn leaves drifting lazily to the ground around you. The air is crisp, carrying the soft scent of damp earth and the distant, rhythmic patter of a gentle rain. It's in these moments of stillness that history whispers its quiet lessons, inviting you to listen closely, to understand not just what was, but what continues to resonate today. The Salem witch trials, with all their fear and turmoil, leave behind more than tales of accusation and sorrow. They offer reflections on the human heart, on how fear, when left unchecked, can ripple through a community, bending the arc of justice and trust in unexpected ways. You might imagine how that fear, subtle at first like a shadow creeping at dusk, grew until it touched nearly every home, every whispered conversation. Yet, as you watch the leaves settle softly on the ground, you realize that this story also holds the power of resilience. The village, the people, and their descendants learned to rebuild from that fragile soil. There is a humbling reminder here that justice, like nature, requires patience, balance, and a careful tending of truth and compassion. Think of the ripple effect, how suspicion once spread like wildfire, but today calls us to pause and reflect before we pass judgment. How the lessons from Salem echo in our courts, in our communities, and even in our personal lives, urging us to listen with empathy rather than suspicion. You might picture the soft rustle of pages turning, as stories and records are revisited and reinterpreted through fresh eyes. With gentle humor, you can imagine the occasional shake of a head at human folly, The way our ancestors' fears sometimes mirror our own. Even centuries later, beneath the rain's steady rhythm, you feel the invitation to carry this understanding forward, to honor the memory of those lost, not just with sadness, but with renewed commitment to fairness and kindness. The trials remind us that communities thrive, not by silencing voices or sowing fear, but by embracing openness and the courage to confront our own uncertainties. As twilight deepens and the world around you grows quiet, you sense the ongoing dialogue between past and present. It's a conversation of healing and hope, where the lessons of Salem gently touch our modern world, reminding you to walk with both awareness and compassion. With each breath, you settle deeper into this reflection, wrapped in the peaceful hum of nature and the enduring wisdom carried across time. And as the last leaf falls, you carry with you a calm confidence that by remembering, by listening, and by learning, we honor the past and nurture a gentler future. The soft rain continues, a gentle soundtrack to your thoughts as you imagine the village of Salem long after the last echoes of the trials have faded. The homes once tense and shadowed by suspicion now hold the quiet warmth of community restored. You can almost hear the laughter of children playing in the streets, a tender counterpoint to the fears that once gripped the town. This transformation teaches us about the strength of the human spirit, how even the darkest chapters can give way to light when courage, understanding, and forgiveness take root. It invites you to carry that same spirit into your own life, to approach moments of doubt and fear with gentle curiosity rather than harsh judgment. Picture a single leaf floating down a slow-moving stream, its journey a metaphor for history's flow, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm, but always moving forward. Just like that leaf, the lessons from Salem remind you that the past is not a burden, but a guide, encouraging you to cultivate kindness and to nurture the seeds of justice in your own world. As the rain begins to fade, replaced by the soft glow of a setting sun, you feel a sense of peace settling over you. The story of Salem, with all its complexity, becomes a quiet companion, a reminder that through empathy and reflection, we connect not only with history, but with each other. That gentle glow of the setting sun wraps around you like a warm blanket, inviting your thoughts to drift softly into the evening. You might imagine the rustling of leaves in a calm breeze, the subtle chorus of crickets awakening as dusk settles, each sound weaving into the tapestry of reflection. In this quiet moment, the story of Salem unfolds not just as a distant historical event, but as a living lesson, a reminder of the fragile balance between fear and empathy, suspicion and understanding. It whispers to you about the importance of listening carefully, of pausing before judgment, and of holding space for compassion even when the world feels uncertain. Picture the faces of those accused, their bravery in the face of adversity, and the resilience of those who survived. Their stories ripple through time, urging you to honor memory with mindfulness and to seek justice with a gentle heart. As night embraces the world, and stars begin their slow dance across the sky, you settle deeper into this calm awareness. The legacy of Salem is a quiet guide, encouraging you to walk through your own life with kindness, courage, and an open mind. You find yourself stepping gently onto the worn cobblestone streets of modern Salem, where history lingers like a soft, familiar melody in the cool air. Each stone beneath your feet carries whispers of centuries past, grounding you in a place where the echoes of human stories still flutter among the trees and buildings. As you walk, the gentle rustle of autumn leaves accompanies your steps. There, colors a quiet celebration of change, deep oranges, mellow golds, and soft browns swirling in the breeze. The air carries a crispness, a mingling of pine and wood smoke that feels both ancient and inviting, wrapping around you like a gentle shawl. The houses, quaint and charming with their whitewashed walls and steep roofs, stand patiently along the narrow lanes. Some hold plaques noting the historic significance, like silent storytellers waiting to share their secrets. Here, you imagine the footsteps of villagers long gone, their daily lives filled with hopes, fears, and moments that shaped this very place. You pass a small park where the memorial to the accused witches sits quietly. The monument's smooth stone reflects the soft afternoon light, its inscriptions a solemn reminder of the lives touched by fear and misunderstanding. Nearby, visitors speak in hushed tones, their voices blending with the soft breeze and distant toll of a church bell. You sense a deep respect here, a collective breath held in honor of those who faced unimaginable trials. Further along, the Salem witch trials memorial invites you to pause. The granite benches and engraved names create a space of contemplation. As you settle onto one of the seats, the quiet around you feels thick with remembrance, a sacred hush that allows the weight of history to settle gently on your shoulders. The charm of the town is balanced by the lingering presence of its complex past. In cozy bookstores, pages whisper tales of witches, trials, and resilience, while cafes brim with the comforting aroma of fresh coffee and pastries. Weaving present comfort with past remembrance, you catch the laughter of children playing nearby, their joy a tender counterpoint to the somber reflections that linger in the air. Wandering into the town square, you notice the mix of tourists and locals, their footsteps creating a soft, steady rhythm that echoes the heartbeat of this community. Street vendors offer warm cider and handcrafted goods, their voices friendly and warm against the backdrop of rustling leaves and distant church hymns. In this blend of past and present, you feel a deep meditative connection, the pulse of Salem still vibrant, alive, with lessons and stories carried across generations. The landscape itself seems to breathe, the buildings, the trees, and the stones holding space for both remembrance and renewal. As twilight approaches, the sky paints itself in gentle hues of lavender and soft pink, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the streets. The gas lamps flicker to life, their warm glow inviting you to linger just a moment longer, to breathe in the stories that weave through Salem's quiet corners. You imagine walking these streets long ago, sensing the palpable tension beneath, the everyday bustle, the undercurrents of fear and hope, suspicion and compassion, all part of the human tapestry that shaped this place. Today, the town embraces both its history and its healing, inviting visitors to walk thoughtfully, to listen deeply. With each step, you feel the gentle pull of reflection, the delicate balance of honoring pain while celebrating endurance. The rustle of the leaves, the crunch beneath your feet, and the soft murmur of voices blend into a serene soundtrack, guiding you through Salem's layered memories. As the evening deepens, the gentle night air cools your skin, carrying the scent of distant bonfires and the faintest hint of autumn rain. The stars begin to twinkle overhead, timeless witnesses to the stories held within this land. Walking slowly now, you allow the calm of this moment to settle in, your mind quieting with the rhythmic dance of history and presence. The soft glow of lanterns and the whisper of the wind accompany you as you leave behind the streets for now, carrying with you the gentle spirit of Salem, a place of shadow and light, memory and hope. And so, with the night embracing the town, you step forward softly, connected across time, wrapped in the peaceful rhythm of a place that holds its stories tenderly, inviting you to rest in their quiet strength.